That's what I want to know.
All right, you're welcome back. It's still on Thursday's edition of your Top Flight television program, Morning Ride. I hope that interview session with Pharmacy Elijah Wanchoko talking about diabetes was a bit helpful to you. At least you now know about diabetes and how to curb it, how to keep yourself safe. All right, about now is time for paper review, and we shall be looking at the dailies and what they have for us this morning. And we also have our analyst, Mr. Bonnie Akeze, who will analyze the stories we have today. Good morning, Mr. Bonnie.
Good morning, Elizabeth.
Good to have you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So let's look at the papers. We'll start with the New Telegraph. The New Telegraph screaming story says FG allocates 22.15 billion naira for traditional rulers, palaces renovations and furnishing. And this is on the 2026 budget. The rider to that story says Tracker says 11 palace projects valued at 5.85 billion naira have no identifiable locations. For the 6 MDAs without statutory mandate to build or renovate palaces to execute projects. Another writer says ICPC uncovers over 908 ghost workers on FG's payroll. Police top 942 million paid as salaries. Okay, that's to say the police sector tops the number. FG 12.83 trillion naira service-wide votes covers salaries, pensions, legacy debts, not presidential slush fund. All right, that story is quite heavy. Also, the rider to that story, they're quite heavy. FG approves downward review of textbook assessment ranking fees, and that story is on page 5. Page 8, we have Dangote resumes sale of petrol in Naira. That's nice. Okay, on PFIPC, only independent probe will restore. Okay, only independent probe will restore public confidence. This is according to Atiku. Details on page 3 and 4. The writer to that story says, APC to Atiku, don't use your competition brush on Tinubu's administration. As politics saga. Trump to Iran, we will destroy a bridge or power plant for each attack in Strait of Hormuz. The writer says, hails Tinubu's decisive leadership against terrorists. The top strip has lawmakers demand impact of $52.73 billion foreign reserves on inflation. Revenue remittances. Senate moves to sanction NNPCL Limited, CBN, TET Fund, FAN, amongst others. And on insecurity, reps demand alternative road to Abuja from Kefi Karu axis. Rider says to probe corruption allegations against mining marshals. Alleged 2 billion naira found in state's commandant's accounts. Fubara ends war with Wike, endorses Tinubu Chinda. That's on page 4. Global expansion. Greenpeace asked Dutch courts to force disclosure on JBS to $25 billion Nigerian expansion. All right, we move to the Nation newspaper. The head story on the Nation says, Tinubu's decisive blows on terrorists excite Trump. Writer says, U.S. President pledges more support in letter to Nigerian leader. 2 million naira loan offer opens for young entrepreneurs. Okay, I would say before young entrepreneurs decide to go for this loan, they should be very, very ready for payback. Otedola tightens hold on First Holdco with 759 billion shares and shares acquisition. Fubara gives nods to Chinda, other Rainbow Coalition candidates in Rivers. CBN, banks must now support productive sector. Right, that's it on the Nation newspaper. We'll move to the Daily Trust. Questions: over 30 billion naira for palaces, places of worship. There are questions that need answers. All right, Phantom Council, Attorney General, NSA to face reps panel today. Another story says, father, daughter die in abandoned well. That's a pity. How inmates allegedly ran car theft syndicate from Bauchi prison. A criminal in the prison still running affairs. Oh, look at that story. Zenith Bank wins dual laurels at Euromoney Awards. Okay, that's it. Rivers governorship, Fubara backs weakest ally. Dangote refinery resumes petrol sale in Naira. And then we'll move to the Vanguard. On Christian persecution, Trump vows to stand with Nigeria in anti-terror war. The writer says, applauds president's resolve to tackle nation's challenges. U.S. pledges to nullify jihadist threats in Nigeria, Somalia, Syria, and others. OPHK drone strikes kill over 20 ISWAP fighters. Chief photographer destroy logistic hub in southern Lake Chad. Details of that story you'll find on page 5. PFIPC scandal. Apologize, resign now. Atiku battles Tinubu. Writer says APC replies Atiku says service-wide vote, not slush fund. On page 13, Igbo governors to fully support Tinubu in 2027, says Uzodimma. Now, on page 9, we have I'm not a criminal, my life in danger. This is according to Achimugo. Rivers 2027, Fubara declares membership of weakest Rainbow Coalition. On the 2027 election, we have Obi Kwankwaso's ticket dead on arrival. And this is according to Ganduje. Writer says Ganduje lacks credibility to speak for Nigerians. And this is according to Obedient Movement. Nigeria drops to 90th in latest global passport ranking. All right, and that's it on the Vanguard newspaper. We'll quickly move to the New Telegraph. Okay, no, we've done the New Telegraph. Let's see, the Daily Sun. Presidency, Atiku fight. Writer says ex-VPs sordid past haunting him. Apologize, resign over PFIPC scandal, Atiku tells Tinubu. Payroll fraud, police top list as ICPC uncovers 908 fake workers across MDAs. 2027 election, Southeast governor solidly supports Tinubu's re-election. This is according to Hope Uzodimma, and that's the governor of Imo State. Senate moves to compel CBN, NNPCL, 39 others to account for remittances. Accuses several agencies of frustrating legislative oversight. Fubara backs Chinda as successor, supports Wike, says, I'm back with our family. Okay. Page 28, controversy over reps allocation of 780 million naira for evangelical instruments. Okay, so that's it on the Daily Sun. Let's look at the Guardian. INEC helpless as early campaigns flout Electoral Act, fairness rules. Details on page 6, and that's on the 2027 presidential elections. Controversy trails 2026 budget amid palace church allocations delays. Payroll fraud, police top list as ICPC uncovers 908 fake workers. World Day Against Trafficking. NAPTIP says 300,000 trafficked in $64 billion scam. Presidency pegs yearly power investment deficit at $11 billion. And that's on business page 15. Court finds poverty keeping Nigerian prison congested, says NHRC. Okay, poverty keeping Nigerian prisons congested. Nigerian solar market hits $24 billion as Africa attracts $13.5 billion renewable energy investment. Dangote returns to Naira sales, raises ex-depot price to 1,215 Naira. Oil nears $100 per barrel as marketers resume petrol loading. All right, let's quickly look at the last paper, which is the Punch. ICPC team grills embattled DG inside police detention. That's on the fake agency probe. Rider says Adeyemi quizzed for hours. Interrogation continues today. Reps to question Akume, Ribadu, Fagbemi Disu, Accountant General today. Controversial DG gets new lawyer. Atiku tackles Tinubu over Phantom Agency controversy. Crackdown on cultists. Police arrest 3. Seize firearms in Lagos. Dangote resumes Naira petrol sales and hikes price by 140 Naira. Ondo Speaker gets Sunday deadline to resign or face impeachment. Details on page 4. Delayed justice, crowded cells. Over 80,000 rot in Nigerian prisons. This on page 3. Police top list as ICPC uncovers 908 ghost workers. Trump hails Tinubu over anti-terror war. So those are the stories we have on the Punch newspaper this morning. So you can quickly grab a copy to peruse further. And now back to analyze these stories. Mr. Bonnie, you've heard all the stories making the papers this morning. Quite intriguing and very interesting, I would say. And to some, very worrisome, because they're talking about the prison break and others. Now let's look at this 2026 budget first that has almost taken over all the papers. FG allocates 22.15 billion naira for traditional rulers' palaces renovations, furnishings. We also have some amount also for church instruments. But now let's look at this one. At a time where millions of Nigerians are facing economic hardship, inflation, and infrastructure deficits in healthcare and also in education. How does the government's policy, or how does the government justify spending 22.15 billion naira on renovation and building palaces? And is this allocation an effort to preserve cultural heritage, or is it a form of political patronage